Howdy, Possum Patty here, and I am sitting at the edge of the woods. This is the winter solstice, which will happen in just a couple of hours, but it's going to be dark at that time. So I'm out now. The sun is low in the sky behind me. The shadows are long, and there's me. Hello, here I am. That pile of sticks over there, I like to pile up the sticks and make little habitats. The songbirds love to go in there in the winter time. Probably the rabbits and other critters use it too. A couple of birds flying around. I see the white-breasted nuthatch on that tree over there. I don't know if I can get in. He's walking down, upside down on the tree there. Okay, I am out here to show you my nature journaling for today, December 21st. And I brought with me not much equipment at all. This is an old journal I found on the shelf that has some empty pages. There are pages in here started in 2016, okay. And this is a wonderful little notebook by Bliss called Nature Drawing, or Drawing Nature. And she's got some really pretty illustrations in here. And she goes step by step in showing you different ways to draw and make marks on a paper. And use the leaves and flowers and stems and things that you see in nature to create designs on your pages. Kind of cool here. She shows equipment. And I use this mostly for very quick notes. As in, I'm following 10 people through the woods and somebody is talking, somebody is identifying things, and I'm trying to write everything down as I walk along the trail and not trip on a root or a rock and break my neck. So there's some empty pages here. These are for practicing different kinds of drawings. I could go over those when we get inside another time. And here are some sketches of trees that I did. I think I was sitting in the car waiting for the group to show up, and I was just sketching with a pen. And this is a sample of just a bunch of notes. I was basically the fern counter on our botany walks. We had regular botany walks on Wednesdays, and at the end of the walk, the leader would turn to me and say, "How many ferns today?" And I would say, "Oh, there were 10, there were 12, there were 13." Different species, not individual plants, but different species. Another little sketch there. Now this is in the book. This is not my sketch, but she does give you lots of ideas here. Here's another little tree sketch. I love to sketch the trees. Now this page had some of the designs that Jill Bliss did, and what I did was trace different kinds of oak leaves over it, and then just looks like a marker. Took a marker and filled in the background so you can see the shape of the leaves and then the little bit of a pattern she already had there poking through. And some sweet gum sketch there, and there's a little critter. And it says, "On the milkweed." All right. A little sketch down there. This is in the book already. And she just shows you the plants here, and then you could get some of the ground going over there. Even more notes, just lots of notes. Like I said, this was quick. As people were walking down, this is in the book already. I didn't do that. As people are walking down the trail, yeah. Oh, look, I saw a bald eagle that day. And people like to keep a list of everything that we saw. Different trees. This is a pattern in the book. I can paint on that page if I want to. I got the sun at my back. I hope this is recording okay. This page was in the book. Okay, we're just going to flip through a bunch of these. Sometimes I draw trees, rocks. Sometimes I write right on top of those pattern pages. There's a tree over there. All right, so let's skip to a blank page. And I started one back here. Oh, here it is. Okay. So my metadata is December 21st, 2022. It is the winter solstice. When I go inside, I will look at the thermometer and write down the temperature and the weather. And hang on tight, we're going up in the sky. Sky is blue today. It's not very windy. The windmill in the yard's not turning. But it is chilly. It's supposed to be about 40 degrees. And I'm going with John Muir laws today. 3 simple statements. I've got this pouch here. I've got some Inktense pencils, a regular pencil, a water brush, and a micron pen. I like to use a micron pen because if you're going to add some water to the page, it does not run. So I notice, what do I notice? I noticed today, whoops, let me come down here. What did I notice today? I noticed blue sky and a white. Now, if you don't know what bird it is, just say you saw an upside down bird on the tree. White-breasted nuthatch. It's not going to be easy to record out here doing this. Walking upside down on a tree. And the pile of sticks in front of me. I wonder if any critters are living in that pile of sticks. And it reminds me of, now you can write as many questions as you want on a nature journal page. You don't have to have any answers. You can just write questions. Oh, look at that. I just noticed something. I'm sitting here talking to you, and right over there, let me zoom in a little bit. Do you see that? There is a little evergreen plant. Oops. So I'm going to add that to my journaling. Oh, I know what this is. See these stalks coming out of the ground? That was a big fern at one time. And that's the center of the leaf. One big leaf comes out with little tiny leaflets on it. And it's probably like a cinnamon fern or something. Right there. Anyway, I notice, I'm going to go back here and add to I notice. I can write it right up here. A plant that is still green. A plant that is still green. So we're going to put evergreen question mark. Okay, evergreen question mark. Will this plant stay green all winter? Looking around, you can see that just about everything that is going to die has died back for the winter. And there is that green plant. So I'm going to go over there. Whoops, I got too many things going on here. Stand by. Okay, it's a very cool plant. If you look at the leaves, the veins in the center of the leaf are much lighter in color than the rest of the leaf. And the center is a little bit purplish. Now, you don't have to know what this is to take a picture of it and ask questions about it. So there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself. Will this stay green all winter? What kind of plant is this? Will this plant get a flower? Will anything come by and eat this plant over the winter? So, you know, maybe there's animals looking for something green to munch on. And it is a little cold out here. My fingers are getting a little cold. So I'm going to take a picture of this and then go inside and use my pencils. If it wasn't so cold, I'd be sketching outside and coloring outside. I forgot to show you this. I'll demonstrate this when we go in the house. This is an old sock, the top of an old white sock. And you wear it on your wrist and you use it to clean your water brush. And now that the ferns have died back, this old green mossy log, this was a tree that fell probably many years ago, goes away back there and right down to my feet, and it is now covered with moss. Okay, I'm back inside now. I've got my Bliss Drawing Nature Journal, and I'm going to practice in this one a while because, yeah, I haven't done sketching in a really long time, and when you do it every day, just a little bit of something every day, sketching comes quite easy when you do it all the time. When you get out of the habit, it's kind of like, well, you got to get back into the habit again. So it's been a while since I did sketching at all. And although I did do the, earlier in the year, I did a watercolor study. Okay, this is a journal that I put watercolor paper in. And I started doing a 100-day project. And I was just having lots of fun with watercolors and ink. So I started with some sketches and then did some watercolor. And this is all nature journaling around the yard. I did not get to 100 days. But when you do some sketching every day, it's a little bit easier to do. So I only got up to, nice colorful robin there. Yeah, so I only did 29 days, and I'm putting quotes in here from Susan Fenimore Cooper, and then drawing something that I see in the yard. And I think I haven't done much. I did a little bit of sketching since then, but not a lot, and especially not on camera. So anyway, this is just a practice. I'm looking at the picture on the screen here, and you know, leaves are fun and easy to draw. In the center here is probably more leaves all curled up, and it's kind of reddish. I knew it, there's a bit of a stem coming out first. See, sketching is, especially nature sketching, it's more about the seeing than the ability to sketch. We all have like these preconceived notions in our head of what things should look like. As you saw right away, I drew a leaf and I didn't put a little narrow part on it. So you've got to look and you've got to look and then you've got to look again, because it's more about looking at the object than your skill in drawing it when you're doing nature journaling. So it's got a wide white part in the center there. And then it's got all these white, like vein lines coming off. And some of them are like a little bit connected. Now I haven't decided if I want to ink this first, but maybe I will. Put some ink on here, and then I'm going to use those pencils, the Inktense pencils, to color it in, because that's the supply that I grabbed today. And I'm just looking very closely at the pattern that the white lines are making on the leaf, and how this white line does come to the tip. And then this one has a small leaf coming off this way. Again, I'm noticing that it's very narrow here. And the angle that this leaf is at kind of makes it look funny. Because that's just the angle that it's at. And again, with those white lines, like that. And then there's another leaf coming off the second plant. So again, it's got the little bit of a red center. Little pointy parts. And then this is coming off to the side. And again, this is a little bit wrinkly. And I don't think that's quite that long. So again, when you sketch, you need to spend more time looking at what you're sketching than the paper. And that's why a lot of nature journaling sessions or lessons actually start with doing blind contour drawing, where you don't look at your paper at all. There's my bird clock already. And so you get used to looking at the bit of nature instead of worrying about what you're drawing is coming out like. So you can make beautiful nature drawings, but the whole point of nature journaling is to see the nature, the nature of the leaf, the pattern of the veins, the shape of the leaf, the color of the leaf, you know, what's going on here in the center. And then it's got a little leaf here, and that's okay if it goes off the page, no problem with that. And it's got little white lines. And then one coming this way. It's a little bit wrinkly. Sort of comes out this way and then goes down. There's a lot of leaves in the background, but I want them to be just kind of like very faint and not distinct at all, because they're going to be just like colors in the background. So I don't even know if I will go over these brown leaves in the background with a pen. I might just, you know, hint at the fact that there's dead leaves all over the ground. So you know what time of year it is, I guess. Yeah, so these are just going to be kind of like shapes there. I'm using my gray Micron 05 pen, and I'm just going to go over the lines. And what's fun sometimes about doing it in pencil and then going over it in pen is that you're actually now getting a second look at what you were drawing. And I'm noticing that this narrow part is not quite that narrow. So I'm going to bring it out like this. And it's got a little bit of a red coming out in the middle. I didn't notice that before either, before it turned white. Okay, this leaf is sort of wrinkled in a little bit like that. I'm going to do sketchy lines today. So there's a couple different ways of sketching. Some people like a strong solid line. Some people like to draw with little bits of sketchy lines. And that's sort of all just like personal preference. Sometimes I just don't like to make dark solid lines. I'm going to be coloring this in anyway. I'll do one more. So I'm not just looking at this while I'm sketching. I'm still looking at that picture and just taking a second look at it. This one's got a little bit of red there. You can see the pattern on this one a lot better. Now, I don't have to really draw both sides of the white lines. I could. Or I can just, when I color it, make sure I leave some white around the black line or on one side of the black line. But this has got this really cool pattern, sort of like arching windows here. So I want to make sure I get that effect right here. It's like it reaches over to the next little white vein. And it looks a little different on the other side. Kind of a little bit more wigglier. But still coming out and reaching towards the other one. All right, I'll be right back. Now, a sketchbook is just that. It's a sketchbook. Nothing has to look like a finished piece of art. And if you don't like it, you keep it and then maybe make some notes on there about what you might want to do better next time. I have this old book. This is a crescent. That might be hard to see. This is a crescent notebook, which is good for markers. And I've done a lot of playing in here with markers. I think this is acrylic paint, but all right. So I was sketching some lavender from the garden, and I really didn't like how it came out at all. So what I did was I took a Sharpie pen and I went around and made notes, what I didn't like. And obviously I didn't like anything about it. Okay, I needed more light. It was too dark. The background was too dark. I didn't draw it with a pen first. Too much stem, not enough flower, all kinds of things. So I went and I did it over here. Now what a difference, right? From this to this. Now this is the same bunch of lavender. And this was my first one. Now I didn't rip it out and throw it away. I kept it. And I looked at it. And what I do is I'm like, okay, if this is somebody else's drawing, what don't I like about it? Or what would I change? What would I do if I was making this picture? And so the bad pictures are very, very helpful, okay? The bad pictures are very, very helpful. Keep it. Make notes on it. What didn't you like? What would you do different? And then I just turned the page and I started it and did it completely different. I made it much lighter, and there's more movement in the stems and the leaves, and the flowers are much prettier, and the pink is a beautiful light background. It's not even a solid pink for these flowers. I mean, I love this one. But this was the first one. I mean, you know, and that's what you do. This is some fuchsia over here. So I kind of took this idea and did the fuchsia there. This is with markers, and I've even got my marker swatches down here to show which ones I used. These came out really nice. I do like my lilies here. Again, this is just practicing. And I think this one, oh, there was another one I did over. This one I did a whole bunch of times, a whole bunch of ways, because this is Lunaria, and I was just fascinated by these seed pods, and I kept sketching them, look, different ways in browns and all different funny colors. So I was just playing with that. Let's see. I think there was another one. It's lilac. Roses came out pretty good. These are actually from a 15th century Italian codex, handwritten in an unknown language, which may be a medieval pharmacopoeia. And these are not marker, these are pencils, watercolor. I'm not watercolor pencils, just colored pencils. So all these are actually copied from a 15th century book. And these are just all, oh, it's the year of the rabbit. I have to use that image. More colored pencils. Oh, I thought I had another one I did over, but I guess not. It's probably in a different journal. Okay, so now I'm going to take my eraser. I still have my computer open here with the picture. And I'm going to erase some of the lines in the plant. And if you don't know what plant this is, that really doesn't matter. I'll look up the correct name for this and write it in after. Get some color on here. I'm going to leave some of those pencil lines in the background because they don't matter too much. All right, now I was determined to use these pencils, which are like watercolor pencils, but have ink in them. Looks like they need to be sharpened. All right, I'm going to pick out a couple colors and sharpen them. Okay, in my little pouch here where I keep the pencils, I have this little swatch ticket. I don't think all the colors are on here. I could put some more on the back. And I am just using a regular old pencil sharpener here. This is mallard green. This is a blue-green. I don't think I'll be using this one. But sometimes I just like to sharpen pencils by hand. A lot of people don't like to do this. They run out and get a pencil sharpener. But I think it's kind of a Zen thing to do, right? The mallard green is really a lot of blue in that. I'm looking at the color of this leaf, and probably this felt and fern green, and maybe in the little leaf is a little bit of a yellow green. I've got this apple green. I want some of this madder brown. I haven't found that one yet. Let's see. We've got indigo, ink black. I don't want black. And, oh, here's madder brown. I want a little gray, maybe a little gray in the background. And this one's called bark. And I don't know why these have an elastic on them. Oh, probably because those are the ones I took outside. All right, this one's sharpened. And this one sharpened. All right, and this one sharpened. So we are all set here. I should update that little ticket. And I still have my computer here with my picture on it. And I'm going to put my dirty sock on here. I'm going to use my water brush just like I was outside, but it was too cold, so I came in. I do love to sketch outside, but not when my hands are cold. So I'm going to start with a lighter color. And you can always, you know, take your colors and test them on the paper. Somewhere that's not your picture, but still on the page. And then you can write what color that is when it's dry or next to it. So this is apple green. You can do your little color swatches that way. All right, now I think that's the, yeah, the paper. This is not watercolor paper. This is sketchbook paper. So it's going to act strange. It's going to act funny, but we're going to try it anyway. Okay, this little one is the lightest. I'm going to try not to put too much water on here. And maybe I should use my smaller brush. Where the sun is hitting, I'm putting this light green, just so I get a little bit more control on this paper, but oh, let's just see how it comes out. Sketchbooks are great for experimenting. You know, if it doesn't come out, I'll just make a note. Do not use water in this journal. So I'm looking at the picture and I'm just looking for all the light spots down here. Oh, I got to think about these veins too. Got to leave white where the lines are. Okay, this one's got lighter spots here. And if you notice, you don't have to like go to one leaf and color the whole leaf and then go to the next leaf and color the whole leaf or whatever object is you're coloring. You can, you know, do like I'm doing. You can do the dark spots, you can do all the light spots, you can do a little bit on each leaf and just go around, say with the same color, and then go back again with a different color. So I learned this about doing faces. When you do eyes, you do a little bit on each eye. A little bit this one, a little bit that one, a little bit this one, a little bit that eye. And you go back and forth, because if you do one eye, the total eye, the other eye is never gonna match. That's what I was told anyway. I'm not very good at faces. Okay, this is the felt green, which is darker. So let's go to the next lighter one, which is the, oh, this is really darker. Okay, that's much darker. And this is the fern. All right, we're going to try the fern next. It's going to be more of a medium. And this side is really dark, but it's lighter towards that white vein. See, I'm not even getting the paper wet yet because this paper doesn't like too much water, so. And this is going to be a little darker around the edge. So one thing I notice about these leaves, they stay evergreen all winter, and they're very thick and, you know, like leather. Very thick, and leaves that stay green all winter need some kind of protection from drying out. So like if it's a needle on an evergreen tree, or if it's an evergreen leaf, it needs to have some kind of protection, some kind of waxy coating maybe, or hairs on it. or, yeah, leaves do. Plants do have hairs. Some kind of protection. Keep it from drying out in the winter time. I was trying so hard to do my junk journaling because I really love junk journaling, but you know, it was taking up a lot of time and I wasn't doing so much art. So I'm going to remember to take time to do this. Now this leaf is very dark in here because it's sort of in a shadow or under this leaf here. So that'll get very dark there. And this one is much darker on this side because it's in the shadow. See, it's been a few minutes and I haven't even gone near the water yet. I can go right up to that black line. But see, I didn't put a black line on both sides there, so I have to be careful on that side. I'll be adding some darker green on here. I'm going to get this medium on here. I love to mix colors. I should try some nature journaling with gouache though. I have to get the gouache out. Okay, so this was the fern green in Inktense. Now that leaf green is very dark. So let me try a little bit of that. I don't even know if I'm going to go to the felt. Well, maybe I put a little felt green. I'm going to put a little felt green on these smaller, lighter leaf over here. But I'll be putting some darker green on there. I love pencils. I have a blog that I haven't put anything on in forever. Plays with pencils. I tell everybody that's my Native American name. Plays with pencils. Because runs with scissors was taken. And I'm not too much into running anyway. So what was the dark one? Leaf, 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 leaf. Leaf green. Okay, and then I got to put some red on there. All right, looking for the darkest spot. I'm trying to make like a dark edge where you can see the edge to give it like a little bit more of a three-dimension aspect. So looking at the leaf, I put a couple of dark edges here and like where it's folded up. And on this one, this edge, I'm going to make this edge a little darker because you can see it. And then a little bit on this side. And a little bit on this side. And on this one, a little bit here. Oh, and down here is a shadow. Now, I did not go to art school, so I would not presume to do a tutorial on art. I am not a art major or you know, professional artist or self-taught. Self-taught. So, you know, when I'm showing you art, I'm just showing you how I do things. This is how an untrained, self-taught, look what I learned online from watching YouTube kind of artist. I might want to put more color on these leaves. I'm looking at them. They're kind of light still. So I'll let this dry a few minutes and just give it add some more darker green to these. Well, I'm really enjoying this. I've got my pencils out. Got my brush out. A couple people have mentioned in the comments that they want to do some more sketching. this year, do some more creative activities. Leaves are a great way to start doing nature journaling. Of course, in New England now, most of the leaves are on the ground. But you know what? Oak leaves stay around all winter because of the tannins in the oak leaf. They don't disintegrate really quickly. You know, maple leaves, they're gone real quick. But not the oak leaves. Of course, you can find evergreens. There are a lot of evergreen plants. Mosses and ferns. Little plants like this one. All right, I'm going to let this dry and just put some more color on it. I put a little bit of red in the center and a little bit of baked earth, which is a brown, looks like a reddish brown. And pulled the color out towards the stems. So just wet the brush and then pull the color out like that. And I think, let's see, colors do I have? Oh, it's the baked earth. Yeah, I got to do some of this background. You don't have to do background at all. And I probably shouldn't do too much because this is not watercolor paper. I'm just going to put colors, this big oak leaf over here. Just suggesting some stuff in the background. You don't want to put too much detail next to the leaves. So I'm just putting some colors. I've got some baked earth, some bark, some madder brown. This one's sienna gold. And just making shapes, but not really trying to put details. And I'm going to kind of mush this all together with the water brush. And hope that these colors keep the green popping out. I haven't added any more green yet to the leaves. This is just the background. Don't even have to do a background. But I'm having fun with my pencils. Love to make scribbly backgrounds. You don't want to put a lot of detail in. Didn't mean to do that a little bit right there. I'll cover that up with some green. Need some color on it here. Maybe I'll put some gold on that. Now you remember this is just a sketch, which I prefer to do outside, except for in the winter. I put just a little bit more green on the leaf to make them a little darker, but I don't think I'm going to put any more. Kind of makes the page wrinkly, but some people really love that crinkly page look and feel and sound. Anyway, so here comes the fun for me, learning about the plant. So I looked it up, and to tell you the truth, yes, I already knew this was a Pyrola plant or a shinleaf plant. But I don't know much about them, so I tried to learn a little bit about them. And I went, there goes my clock again. Yeah, I took a break for lunch, and now I'm back an hour later. Anyway, so sometimes when you start investigating plants, it does get very, very confusing because the scientists keep switching plants from one family to another and back to another family and renaming it and putting it over here and putting it over. Anyway, it gets very confusing. But I always find something interesting about the plant, no matter how the scientists want to classify it. And, you know, sometimes I learn the Latin binomial names of plants because there's interesting story behind the names, but the names change. So it's not the end-all, know-all. You don't have to learn these names to do a nature journaling, but sometimes I like to investigate. So these pyrolas have been moved from one family to another by the scientists. See, the more they learn about a plant, the more they like to move it around. And when DNA sequencing came into effect, they started moving everything around. But to go back to the history of the plant, you know, when I grow up, I want to be a ethnobotanist. When I grow up, I want to be an ethnobotanist. And this is my Native American Ethnobotany book. You can see how large it is. And it has, you know, about 1,000 pages. And it describes plants by their common name and their Latin name, and what different Native Americans use that plant for. Each tribe might have had a different use for it. And also, not just medicine or food, but it could be in ceremonies, or to make a musical instrument, or to use in weaving, or to use in food preservation. So there's just a lot of uses. So I love to study about the different plants and see what they were used for. Now, Pyrola is in the family Ericaceae or Ericaceae, depending how you want to pronounce it. And the Cherokee Nation used this as a dermatological aid. They stuck it on cuts and sores to heal them. Now, this is also Pyrola roundifolia. Now, and I started looking that up, and it's like there's this whole big discussion. Is the shinleaf plant in New England the same as the shinleaf plant in Europe? Because you have to remember the continents were connected at one time and then they separated. Or is it a subspecies of the roundifolia? Doesn't matter. Roundifolia just means round-shaped leaf, so that part is easy. Anyway, the Ojibwa used it as a hunting medicine. They dried the leaves and made tea and drank it as good luck potion in the morning before the hunt started. So those are two very interesting things. Now, this book, it took this man years and years and years and years and years to collect all this information. And it really wasn't until he had a computer to sort it out was he able to actually put together this volume, because it just cross-references all the plants and all the Native American nations and all the uses for the plant. So it's quite extensive, and that's why I say when I grow up I want to be an ethnobotanist, because yeah, I'll look up a plant once in a while. And then I got out this huge book, which is the Plants of Pennsylvania. Yes, I bought this when I lived in Pennsylvania, but a lot of the plants found in New England are also found in Pennsylvania. So I can use this book to look up a lot of plants. And the problem was when I looked up the Pyrola, I think they're on 735. Yeah. To distinguish one from another, you actually have to look at the flowers. And of course the flowers aren't flowering now. It does describe the leaves a little bit. And then I noticed this word sweet, Pyrola americana sweet. And I thought, well, is sweet like a common name? Do they call it sweet? And then I say, well, no, this one says Schwartz. These sound like names. And I'm looking up here, Barton, Persh. Okay, so these are names. So then I had to go to the Google and find out who this sweet person was. So with my with my research today, this is what I'm going to put on the page, that the plant is a Pyrola americana sweet, and Sweet is the name of a botanist, Robert Sweet, who lived from 1783 to 1835 and was a member of the Linnaean Society over in England. And, you know, they're the ones that kind of organize all the naming and taxonomy of things. And that it is a member of the Ericaceae or Ericaceae, which is the heath or heather family. So these plants are most commonly found in acidic soil areas or bogs or in the woods in fertile soil conditions. And other members of the family are blueberries, rhododendrons, and azaleas. So if you think about rhododendrons, they're also evergreen and have these thick leather-like leaves. Kind of looks like a rhododendron leaf. So you can see the family resemblance there. So I thought that was interesting because here at Soggy Bottom, we do have wild azaleas and wild rhododendrons and wild blueberries, and lots of these wild shinleafs, and they all like the same kind of soil, acidic, boggy soil. So that makes a lot of sense to me. This is also called the American wintergreen. But then I wrote down over here, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's okay. I'm just taking notes and learning things. So it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't have to be a perfect piece of art. You find something, you make a sketch, you write labels and notes and things all around. And so I wrote the note about the Cherokees, stick it on cuts to heal them. And some of the research I found is that these leaves contain salicylic acid. Now, salicylic acid is also found in the inside of willow bark, and it is also an ingredient in aspirin. The medical abbreviation for aspirin is ASA, and the S is there, you got salicylic acid. The use for this plant was to make a poultice to relieve pain from bruises and wounds. And the poultice itself was called a shin plaster. Now, I didn't know this before. I have found this plant and identified it, but haven't done as much research on it. So it's like the first time I find a plant, I might spend a lot of time looking at it and maybe trying to figure out what it is and a few things about it. But then the next time I see it, yes, go ahead and draw that same plant again and maybe learn a little bit more about it. So I've been here for a couple of years and I've learned how to identify these. I have seen it in bloom. So maybe this year I will pay a little bit more attention to the shape and different parts of the flower. And that its name, shinleaf, now I didn't know this before, but its name, shinleaf, comes from the word shin plaster, which is the poultice that was made from the crushed leaves to put on the bruises and the wounds, like on your leg, your shin, right? So now this is all starting to make more sense to me. I know that if it's Pyrola americana, sweet, that sweet is not another name for this plant, but is actually the botanist that it was named after, and that it is called a shinleaf because it is used to make a shin plaster, a poultice to put on wounds and bruises. You know, I guess you bang your shins a lot, right? And that it is found in this area because it is part of the heath or heather family, and it likes the soils, it likes my bog, it likes to live here. So all of this now is starting to make sense for me. Now every time I see this plant, I can think a little bit more about it. I can remember maybe its Latin name. I can remember maybe a little bit more, oh yes, it's growing here because it likes this kind of soil, or it likes the bog, or it likes to live in the woods. That it was named after a botanist, Robert Sweet. You know, so there's just a little bit more that I learned about this plant today. So I had a very enjoyable day today. Just being outside and being able to, come back in because it was a little bit cold, sketch the plant, and then do some research in my very large books, and there's no way that I would ever try to learn all of this, but using the the books as a little bit of a resource for the plants that are familiar to me. See, that's the thing. You don't have to learn 100 plants. You can learn a dozen plants that are very common to where you live. And everybody's going to think that you are really, really smart. Anyway, happy nature journaling, everybody. Bye-bye.